Tropical Depression Jangmi has formed in the western Pacific Ocean and is expected to move north over the next few days, quickly intensifying before at least becoming a Category 2 equivalent typhoon, before sharply turning east, potentially significantly impacting southern portions of Japan next week. So anyways, let's get straight into this emergency update. First of all, looking at the official forecast for Jangmi from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, you can see right now it is at 30 knots, about 35 miles an hour. It is located a few hundred miles to the west-southwest of Guam, located several hundred miles to the east of the Philippines, and it will move northwest over the next couple of days, gradually strengthening into a typhoon, eventually reaching 70 knots in a couple of days, which is equivalent to 80 miles an hour. And after that, it will start to intensify more quickly, eventually reaching 90 knots on the 30th and 31st of May, where that's equivalent to 100 miles an hour, so a Category 2 typhoon at least. But some of the models show it could be stronger at its peak, and we'll talk about that later in this video. But after that, it's actually expected to turn quite far north and gradually weaken. By the 1st of June, it's expected to still be at 75 knots, which is 85 miles an hour, and after that, it will likely turn east and potentially significantly impact Japan, and we'll talk about both of those topics later in this video. Next, looking at the satellite imagery for Tropical Depression Jangmi provided by Tropical Tidbits, you can see right now it has some pretty good convection, widespread convection around negative 60 to negative 70 degrees Celsius around the center there, so you can see some pretty high cloud tops. Around that there's some negative 40s, negative 50s. It gradually goes down as it usually does with a tropical cyclone, and you can see there's some more thunderstorms trying to pop up on the southern side of the center. You can see on the northern side of the center there's a huge glob of negative 80 up towards negative 90 degrees Celsius clouds there. Some pretty high cloud tops there, and down towards the southern side we have some more tall thunderstorms forming there right now. Looking at the loop for Tropical Depression Jangmi, you can see it's been organizing over the past few hours here. You can see there's been more convection trying to form on the southern side over the past hour, and you can see there's been more convection spreading around the center over the past several hours here. So it's looking like it's organizing pretty good right now, and I would expect that later today or overnight it does get upgraded to a tropical storm, because it does seem like it's starting to gradually intensify now. You can even see it starting to rotate if you look close enough in the background there. So it's showing pretty good signs of convection and intensification at this point. So I expect this is the start of the intensification phase of Jangmi. Next, we are going to look at some of the weather models and their solutions for what could happen with Jangmi. So first of all, looking at the HWRF, you can see right now it has it at 995 millibars and at about 50 to 55 knots, which is 60 to 65 miles an hour. That's much higher than it probably actually is right now. Right now it's probably about 30 to 40 miles an hour, but as you see, as we go on in time, it has it sustaining that strength for about the next day or so. But within the next 24 hours, there's not any strengthening expected. But tomorrow, in about 24 hours-ish, we could see it start to intensify. At 27 hours out, it has it at about 55 to 60 knots, which is a high-end tropical storm there, almost reaching hurricane strength there, typhoon strength there. And by the time we get to 30 hours, it's already reaching typhoon strength, and its state is about that strength and actually weakens a little bit as its circulation tightens. And then by the time we get to about 40 hours out, it's becoming a high-end tropical storm again with a pressure of 997 millibars. And then by hour 54, it's already becoming a typhoon. And then you can see 60 hours out, in about 2.5 days, it has it becoming a pretty significant typhoon with 75 knot winds, about 85 mile an hour winds, and a pressure of 963 millibars. As we continue on, you can see it has becoming a Category 2 typhoon with winds around 95 knots or 105 miles an hour. You can see it even has becoming a low-end Category 3 equivalent typhoon with winds close to 115 miles an hour and a pressure of 950 millibars. And then eventually even strengthens a little more up towards about 110 knots, which is about 125 miles an hour, so well into the major typhoon range. And then it has a slowly weakening as it moves north, and eventually it will start to move more east. But first, it will start to impact portions of Japan there as it weakens. It will impact those islands there. So if you're in those islands, make sure you watch out. And if you're in southern Japan, including like the Tokyo and Kyoto areas, make sure you watch out for this storm as well, as it could bring significant impacts to your areas. Next, we are looking at the GFS. You can see about now it has it being around 45 knots, which is 50 to 55-ish miles an hour, which is actually a much more reasonable estimate. Maybe still a little high, but better than the HWRF. You can see as we go through the next 24 hours, it has a weakening a little bit actually, but once we get to about 36 hours out, it starts strengthening a lot into a high-end tropical storm around 60 knots to 75 miles an hour and a pressure of 988 millibars. And then by the time we get to 54 hours out, it's about the same strength, although a pressure is around 972 millibars at that time. And then if we go 60 hours out, it's at 70 knots, 80 miles an hour there with a pressure of 968 millibars. And then we continue to see strengthening in the system by 72 hours out, which is about 3 days out from now. You can see it's at 80 knots, which is 90 miles an hour for a pressure of 960 millibars. And then it continues to strengthen into a major typhoon with winds of 150 miles an hour and a pressure of 942 millibars. And then you can see it gradually weakens after that, impacting those islands near Japan at typhoon strength. And eventually you can see it starts to impact portions of southern Japan for potentially tropical storm force winds there around 50 to 60 knots there. So if you're in that area, you can see some strong winds around, I would say, 40 to 55 knots, which is low end to upper range tropical storm force. And then it continues to weaken as it moves past Japan, but you guys can still see some heavy flooding out towards Tokyo there. So if you're in the southern half of Japan there, make sure you watch out for this system, because again, it could bring some significant impacts to those areas. Next, looking at the ECMWF, the Euro model, you can see right now it has it at 31 knots, 30 knots-ish, which is actually pretty close to the actual intensity here. I think that's like spot on right now. It's 101 millibars in this model, maybe a little high, but I'm not sure. That's probably actually a decent estimate, so 40 miles an hour, about 1,000 millibars. You can see it has a strengthening a little over the next 24 hours, but nothing too significant. But you can see by the time we get 24 hours out, it's starting to reach some tropical storm force winds in some areas with a pressure of 999 millibars. Excuse me. And then you can see by the time we get 30 hours out, that's when the strengthening really begins. 36 hours out, it's at 40 knots, which is about 45 miles an hour for a pressure of 995 millibars. Maybe a little too high there and a little too low for the pressure and wind speeds respectively. But you can see by the time we get 48 hours out, it's reaching mid-range tropical storm force winds. And then by the time we get about 60 hours out, it's starting to get up to the high-end tropical storm force range with 55 mile an hour winds or 65 mile an hour winds. I meant knots for the first time, and then it will have a pressure of around 998 millibars according to this model. And then by the time we get to about 72 hours out, you can see it actually weakened a little bit. And then you can see it really goes really slow right here, but eventually it'll start to impact those islands near Japan, and actually this is when it's at strongest, reaching upper range tropical storm force winds with about 65 to 70 mile an hour sustained winds. and then it will start to gradually weaken, but it will sustain its winds for a little bit, and actually it has it staying at high in tropical storm for strength as it moves by Japan before it eventually weakens as it moves up to the east. And again, you guys in the southern parts of Japan there, especially near Tokyo too, in that popular area, need to be watching out for this because it can bring some significant impacts, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, if you're in parts of southern Japan, including the Tokyo metro area, you need to be prepared for the system sometime on Monday or Tuesday next week, as the system will likely hit your area on Wednesday or Thursday. Although Jangmi will likely not be as strong as it is going to be at its peak intensity as it hits parts of southern Japan, you will likely still see some wind gusts ranging from 40 to 90 miles an hour, some sustained winds around 30 to 70 miles an hour, as well as some significant flash flooding, maybe some totals up to maybe like a few hundred centimeters potentially in coastal areas, but I'm not expecting very significant flooding, but there still could be some significant flooding, so make sure you guys are not on the roads, make sure you have enough food and water, and you make sure you have enough batteries and other stuff to last you at least a few days, and I will make you guys more informed in future updates as we learn more about this system. Anyways, that is the end of today's emergency update on Tropical Depression Jangmi. This likely will become a tropical storm later today or overnight or tomorrow morning, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you are alerted when I have my new emergency update sometime tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And also, if you know anyone in the areas impacted in Japan that will likely be impacted by this system, just let them know about this in case they haven't heard about it already, because it just formed and they probably haven't heard much about it yet since the track isn't so certain, but we know it's probably going to get close to Japan. And anyways, I will see you guys in the next emergency update. Goodbye!